Hey guys, so we are on the problem solving for lesson 7.10. We are once again doing guess and check. Remember, it doesn't matter how many times you need to try it again. You just have to look at what you got the last time and try to take that number and figure out if you need to guess a higher or lower number this time. So they have I'm on page P153. They have number 1 done for us. And they only had to guess 2 times, but that's because it's the book and they know what the answer is. I do not know what the answer is, so let's see how well we do. Number 2 says Marisol is painting on a piece of canvas that has an area of 180 square inches. The length of the painting is 1 1/4 times the width. What are the dimensions of the painting? So I have what I think the width might be. I have the length times 1 1/4, or I don't want to multiply by 1 1/4. I want to multiply by the improper fraction. So I'm actually going to go 1 times 4, which is 4, plus 1, which is 5, 5 1/4. And then I need my area, which is supposed to be 180. And then we have our check. And I'm just going to put the check mark there, okay? So we're going to have in that particular column, we are going to have an up, a down, or just a check. Our width, we don't need that much for. Our length, we need quite a bit for. Our area, we need quite a bit for. Our check, we do not need all that much for. So we're trying to get to 180. Something times something is 180. Let's start with, let's see. So 180 divided by 9. Let's go with divided by 9 to start with. So that'll take us to 18 divided by 9 is 2. And then we put the 0 on for the 20. So let's start with a width of 20. And, oh no, wait a second. We probably don't. Well, okay, let's start with the width of 20 and see what happens. So I have 20 times 5/4 is equal to 20 times 5, which is 100, divided by 4. 100 divided by 4 is equal to 25. So then I have 20 times 25. Once again, I'm going to go onto a different sheet of paper to do these multiplication ones because we are not going to have room here. 20 times 25, 5 times 0 is 0, 5 times 2 is 10. Have a placeholder. 2 times 0 is 0. 2 times 2 is 4. Give me a second. My dog is deciding to bark. Okay, so then we need to add this. 100 plus 400 is equal to 500, which is so much higher than what I want, it's not even funny. So I need to make it lower. That is why I'm putting the lower arrow. Okay, so 20 was a complete disaster. Let's try 5 this time, okay? Oh, sorry. This ended up being 500, which is not even in the same ballpark. So let's try 5 this time. So I now have 5 times 5/4, which is 5 times 5, which is 25 over 4. Then I'm going to multiply over here, 5 times 25 over 4. So I need to do 5 times 25, or 25 times 5, as the case may be. 5 times 5 is 25. 2 times 5 is 10, plus the 2, 125. So this is equal to 125. I need to go up, but not all that much. That actually isn't too bad. So let's try something else. Let's try a 10. Let's see what happens if we do a 10. Okay? So 10 times 5/4. 10 times 5 is 50 over 4. Then I'm going to come over here and go 10 times 50 over 4 is equal to 500 divided by 4. Let me figure that one out. 4 goes into, oh wait, I messed up on the other one. It needed to be the 125, then needed to get divided by 4. So the 4 goes into the 12 3 times, because 3 times 4 is 12, which gives us a 0. We bring down the 5. 4 goes into the 5 1 time, minus 4 and 1/4. So I actually ended up with 31 and 1/4, which is quite a bit lower than what I thought it was. Oops. So this time I do have it right. I need, how many times does 4 go into 500? 4 goes into 5 1 time. 1 times 4 is 4. 5 minus 4 is 1. Bring down the 0, gives us a 10. 4 goes into 10 2 times, because 2 times 4 is 8. 10 minus 8 is 2. Bring down the bring down the 0. 4 goes into 20 5 times, because 5 times 4 is 20. Okay, so this whole thing is equal to 125. It is not high enough. We need to go up higher. Let's see, what number should we try next? Okay. So 20 was too high. 10 is too low. Let's try 15 and see what happens. So I have 15 times 5/4 is equal to 15 times 5. 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 1 is 5 plus 2, which is 7. So I have 75 over 4. Then I have 15 times 75 over 4, which is equal to 75 times 15. 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 7 is 35, plus the 2, 37. Placeholder, 1 times 5 is 5, 1 times 7 is 7. 5 plus 0 is 5, 7 plus 5 is 12. And 3 plus 7 is 10, plus 1 is 11. So that gives us 1,125 over 4. Now we still need to divide by 4. 4 goes into 1,125. Okay, so 4 goes into 11. How many times? Twice, because 4 times 2 is 8. 11 minus 8 is 3. Bring down the 2. 8 times what is 32? That's 4 times what is 32? 8. 8 times 4 is 32. 32 minus 32 gives us a 0. Bring down the 5. How many times does 4 go into 5? Once. So 5 minus 4 gives us a 1. and 1/4. So 15 gives us a 281 and 1/4, which is too high. So we need to go back down. So it is somewhere between 10 and 15. See, 10 says it needs to be higher, 15 says it needs to be lower. Let's try another one. Okay, this time let's try, I need something between 10 and 15 that I can divide 4 into, because we end up with a whole number. And so we should probably have something I can divide 4 into, because we have the 4th right there. So something I can divide 4 into that is between 10 and 15. Well, let us try 12. Let's see what happens with that one. So 12. So I now have 12 times 5/4, which is 60, I do believe. Let me see. 12 times 5. 2 times 5 is 10. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 1 is 6. Right. So 60/4. And then 4 goes into 60 how many times? 4 goes into 6 one time. 1 times 4 is 4. 6 minus 4 is 2. Bring down the 0. That's a 20. 4 goes into 20 5 times. 5 times 4 is 20. Okay, so that is a 15. So I now have 12 times 15 equals, what is 12 times 15? 2 times 5 is 10. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 1 is 6. Placeholder. 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 1 is 1. Add it together. 0 plus 0 is 0. 6 plus 2 is 8. And 1 plus nothing is 1. 180. So that is the one that we want. Our sides are 12 by 15. Okay, let's try number 3. You see how many times I had to check that to figure out where I was going and what I was doing. Let's try number 3. Number 3 says, a small plane is flying a banner in the shape of a rectangle. The banner of the rectangle is 144 square feet. So the area is 144 square feet. Okay, so that's going to be our checkbox. And that's going to be our area. And we're going to have the width of the banner is 1/4 the length of the banner. Okay, so here it's asking us to, it wants length, and then length times 1/4 for the width. Okay. So last time we figured out, or I figured out a bit into it, the number that the length is going to be has to be divisible by 4 because that is a whole number. Okay, so now I'm only going to be looking at things which are divisible by 4 this time. Hopefully that'll help us figure it out faster. So I can start with how about, well, what are our options? What's divisible by 4? We have 4, we have 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, and 36, really. That's what we have. I don't think it will end up being a 4 or an 8 because our width is even smaller than our length, and we're only using 1/4 for the width. I want to start somewhere around here, between the 12 and the 20. I think I might start with the 20 again, just to see what happens, because 20 seems to be a good place in the middle, and so I can see if I need to go up or if I need to go down. So let's just make the length of 20, just so we can say that. So I need 20 times 1/4, which is equal to 20/4, which is equal to 20 divided by 4 is 5. So I then have 20 times 5, which is 5 times 2 is 10, add on the 0, it is 100. 100 is not 144, so I actually need to go up, so I can get rid of everything that is less than the 20. And I'm left with 24, 28, and 36. So let's see if we can figure this out. Next problem, next try. 100 isn't too much below what I want, so let's actually try the 24 and see if that works. So if I have a 24 times a 1/4, it is equal to 24 over 4. How many 4 times what gives us 24? 6. So now let's try 24 times 6. Well, let's go back to our page where we were working stuff out. 24 times 6, 4 times 6 is 24. 2 times 6 is 12, plus 2, 14. 144. So actually, that is the one that we want. Woo woo. Good job. All right, number 4. I'm going to keep my scratch paper and move on to number 4 and see what it wants us to do. Number 4 wants us to, an artificial lake in the shape of a rectangle has an area of 9/20 square miles. Oh my goodness. All right. The width of the lake is 1/5 the length of the lake. So we have the length, and then we have the length times 1/5. Whoops. Times 1/5, that is equal to the width. Okay. Now let's think about this for a little bit, because this does not have a whole number as our ending answer. It has something over 20 as our ending answer. That means, what do we have to do to 5 to make it a 20? We have to multiply it by 4. So whatever we put as our length is going to have a 4 in the denominator. So let me put down some options. 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4, 5/4, 6/4, 7/4, 8/4, and 9/4. I want to start somewhere middle-ish with this. So I think I'm going to try 5/4 and see what happens. Let's try 5/4 and see what happens. 5/4. So I then end up with 5/4 times 1/5. 5 times 1 is 5. 4 times 5 is 20. Okay, that's not actually going to end up doing what I wanted it to do, is it? That's really not going to end up doing what I wanted it to do. Because check this out. Look at what's going to happen here. 5/4 times 5/20 is equal to 5 times 5, which is 25, over 4 times 20, which is 4 times 2 is 8. 80. Okay, no, that is not what I wanted at all. That is not what I wanted at all. Oh, I did not want that to be over an 80. Oh, that isn't even. Okay, I messed up. No, we can't have the 4. You see how that 4, how we have an extra 4 there? So we don't want fourths down here. We don't want fourths down here at all. So let me cross that out, because that is not going to, that's going to give us a bottom number of 80. Oh, good golly, no, that's not what we want. Let's retry this. How about, because I wanted to eventually end up being a 4 times 5. And I wanted to eventually get there. How about we try it with a 2 instead? 2 might work. We still need to make this an even number. We can make things even by 2, by using 2's. So let's try that. So I have 1 over 2, 2 over 2, 3 over 2, 4 over 2, 5 over 2. Okay, so let's try one of those. Oh wait, 6 over 2, 7 over 2, 8 over 2, 9 over 2. Okay, so once again, I am going to start with the 5. I'm going to start with the 5, except this time it is going to be a 5 over 2. Let's see what happens. 5 over 2. Okay, so 5 over 2 times 1 over 5. 5 times 1 is 5. Over 2 times 5, which is 10. Okay, so now I have 5 over 2 times 5 over 10. So 5 over 2 gives us 25, and 2 times, I'm sorry, 5 times 5 gives us 25, and 2 times 10 gives us 20. Okay, cool. So we have the denominator correct. So it is going to end up being a 2 in the denominator. That is what our denominator is going to be. But that 25, we want a 9. Yeah, that 25 is way too high, so we need to go lower. So anything bigger than the 5 over 2, we're getting rid of. So that's 6, 7, 8, and 9 over 2, getting rid of all of those. We're also getting rid of the 5 over 2. So let's try something a little lower. Let's try a, let's try the 3 over 2 and see what happens. 3 over 2. So I have 3 over 2 times the 1 over 5. Okay, that's what happens in the middle. Everything is times 1 over 5. 3 times 1 is 3. 2 times 5 is 10. Now over here, I take the beginning number, 3 over 2, and I multiply it by the number I got in the middle, 3 over 10. So 3 times 3 is 9. And 2 times 10 is 20. 9/20. That's exactly what we wanted. Yay! Good deal. Okay. So, sorry about the little snafu the first time, but we got it the second time. That was fantastic. Let's go look on the back on page 154. I'm still going to keep my scratch paper there. I'm just going to put a new piece of paper on top of it. Consuela's living room is the shape of a rectangle, and it has an area of 360 square feet. So our area is 360. There's our checkbox. The width of the living room is 5/8 its length. So we have our length, and then the length times 5/8 is going to be the width. Okay, so what is the length of the living room? We are once again back to having a whole number. In order for us to have a whole number, we need to be able to divide by 8. So let's write down what our factors for 8 are. 8 times 1 is 8. 8 times 2 is 16. 8 times 3 is 24. 8 times 4 is 32. 8 times 5 is 40. 8 times 6 is 48. 8 times 7 is 56. 8 times 8 is 64. 8 times 9 is 72. So those are our options. And we need to pick something. Let's start about the middle. Let's start at 32 and see what happens. So if I put 32 here, and I then come over here and I do 32 times 5/8. So first off, I need to do 32 times 5. 2 times 5 is 10. 5 times 3 is 15, plus 1, 16. 160 divided by 8. So 8 into 160. 8 goes into 16 how many times? 2. 2 times 8 is 16. 16 minus 16 is 0. Bring down the 0. So 8 goes into 0 0 times. So that ends up being a 20. So I now have 32 times 20. Let's see what that is. 32 times 20. The 0 is just going to make everything a 0. So I'm simply going to put in the placeholder and move on to the second number. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 3 is 6. So that gives us 640. Well, 640 is too large, quite a bit too large actually. So I'm going to have to pick a smaller number, which means 32, 40, 48, 56, 64, and 72 all get crossed off. I am now left with 8, 16, or 24. Which one do you think we should pick next? Let's try 16, shall we? Let's just see what happens. So remember, I got these numbers because I'm going to need to get rid of that 8, and these are all multiples of 8. 16 times 5/8 is equal to a new sheet of, actually, you know what? Let me just flip this page over. We'll just use the back side. 16 times 5. 6 times 5 is 30. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 3, 8, 80. So now I need to divide this into 8. So 8 divided into 80. How many times does 8 go into 8? 1 time, because 1 times 8 is 8. 8 minus 8 is 0. Bring down the 0. 8 goes into 0. 0 times. So I am left with a 10. And then I have 160 times 10, which equals, we just add on an extra 0, 1,600. How did I end up Oh, because it's not 16 times. It was 16 times 10, not 160 times 10. Okay, so we end up with 160. I need 360, so I need to go higher. I need to pick a larger number. So I'm crossing out the 8 and the 16. All that we are left with is the 24. Let's see if that one works. So 24 times 5 over 8 is equal to 24 times 5. 4 times 5 is 20. 2 times 5 is 10 plus the 2, 12, 120. We then need to divide this by 8. 120 divided by 8. How many times does 8 go into 12? 1 time. 1 times 8 is 8. 12 minus 8 is 4. Bring down the 0. How many times does 8 go into 40? 5. 8 times 5 is 40. 40 minus 40 is 0. Excuse me. So I ended up with that being equal to 15. 24 times 15 equals 4 times 5, which is 20. 2 times 5, which is 10, plus 2, 14. 10 plus 2 is not 14. 10 plus 2 is 12, right. Placeholder. 1 plus 4 is 4. 1 plus 2 is 2. 1 times 4 is 4. 1 times 2 is 2. I don't know what's going on with my head right now. Okay, so 0 plus 0 is 0. 2 plus 4 is 6. And 1 plus 2 is 3. This is equal to 360, which is the number that we want. Yay, yay, yay. Okay, number 2. A rectangular park has an area of 2/3 square miles. Okay, so the length of the park is 2 2/3 the width of the park. So we have the width that we're worrying about this time. And width times 2 2/3, or the number that we're actually going to use is 2 times 3, which is 6, plus 2, 8 over 3. So it's 8/3. That's the number that we're actually going to use. All right. So let's see what all I need to get this going. I need to end up with a third. I already have a third. So my width is going to be a whole number. I just don't know what whole number yet. I want to end up with 2/3, so it's probably going to be a pretty small whole number. Let's see what happens when I do. Our area is only 2/3. Okay. Let's see what we get when I use a 1. I think I might already, let's try it out and see what happens. So if I use a 1 as my width, I have 1 times 8/3, which is equal to 8/3, and then I come over here and I do 1 times 8/3. thirds, which is equal to 8 thirds, which is too much. So I need a number that is lower than 1. Let me try 1/2 and see what happens. Okay, so 1/2. So I have 1/2 times 8 thirds, which gives me 8/6. So then I have 1/2 times 8/6, which gives me 8/12. Let's reduce that and see what that ends up being. 8/12, I can divide out a 2 from both sides. 8 divided by 2 is 4. 12 divided by 2 is 6. Can divide out another 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. Okay, then we can do it that way. 8/12 is actually equal to 2 thirds, and so apparently a half is the answer that we wanted. That's really interesting. Okay, then I'll pick it. And I am going to leave the rest of the spiral review for you to do yourself. Have a good day. Good luck. Bye.